Good morning, everybody. We're going to talk about the NBA Finals and those results today, as well as where LeBron James kind of finishes in history. So take it away.
Yeah. Justice for the blind, just something that'll find in the rhymes that are coming from my mind.
Good morning, everybody. So this is episode 50-something of the 476ers podcast. I don't remember. I'm never going to remember, and it's been a while. I know you guys haven't heard from me in over a week. At least I've needed some time for myself, some time for my mental health, and I know I've taken a lot of those over the last 2 months, but I think I am good now. So I'm going to probably be recording a little more often again. Definitely going to talk about the Eagles. There will be an Eagles podcast out later today. Whatever, at the same time that this one comes out, honestly, or around the same time. For this one, though, we're going to talk basketball. So we're going to talk about the finals. We'll talk about the results. First and foremost, congratulations to the Los Angeles Lakers. Have won now. I don't even know how many championships this is. If you ask Bill Simmons, he doesn't think they should count this. He doesn't think they should count the first four, which happened in Minneapolis with this. But I think that depends on the franchise, because then I think the Warriors count the Philadelphia championships. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. The Philadelphia Warriors championship. I think they only won one here. And the point being, I don't know. I don't care either way. It doesn't matter. I hate the Lakers, whatever. Congratulations to the Lakers. They won a championship. Big fucking deal. But no, in all seriousness, it was a very good series, a lot more dramatic than I think a lot of us expected it to be. Honestly, I don't think it was ever in question, in my opinion. In my opinion, I don't think it was in question. And with that, let's talk about Jimmy. Listen, Jimmy made me eat my words to a certain extent. Now, somebody tweeted the other day, time for you guys to apologize to Jimmy Butler. I'm not apologizing to anybody, because Jimmy Butler was an asshole. He was a cocksucker on a lot of different teams. And again, to say this for like the 32nd time ever that I hate that I have to even keep fucking mentioning this. Jimmy was always going to Miami, and we are just seeing more and more quotes about that. I think locking it in even more firmly. He was always going to Miami. Now there was quotes that D Wade had reached out to Eric Spoelstra and said Jimmy is would fit right in with the culture and blah 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 blah. And again, there were stories when they played in Chicago that Jimmy was looking for a certain culture, that D Wade said, "Hey, Miami has that culture." Jimmy was going to go to he was going to Miami at all points. So stop even mentioning the Sixers as a thing. You know what I mean? The Sixers fucked up for a host of reasons. And I'll be honest with you, not re-signing Jimmy is one of the, maybe the fourth or fifth thing, if you want to include that. In my opinion, trading for Jimmy in the first place is a bigger mistake than ever trying to re-sign Jimmy. That was really the mistake, because when we made the trade, I thought it was, it was part of the thing. Okay, we're trading for Jimmy, but if he doesn't resign, we just lost assets. Now, again, I'm not the biggest Cub fan, but you've heard me say on this podcast a million times how important it is to have a stability and to have continuity. You know what I mean? Unless you're LeBron James, you don't really need continuity, because that's LeBron. You don't need a whole lot of continuity. You just need LeBron. But the rest of the teams in the NBA require continuity. The way you get past continuity is by pairing great players together. So when the Warriors, even though you can't even include that, because the Warriors had continuity, they just added Kevin Durant into the mix, and boop, continuity. It doesn't even fucking matter. Most teams require continuity unless you're pairing together transcendent players of that era, and then continuity doesn't really make much of a difference. The Spurs could win a bunch of championships and always be competing, not because obviously Timmy is a top 8 player of all time, but Tony, again, you've heard me talk about this. Tony is not a top 8 point guard of all time. He's not a top 8 anything of all time. Maybe top 8 under 6 feet guy of all time. Sure, I'll give him that. But you know what I mean? He wasn't as great. But Manu, these guys are not as great as people want to make them out to be. Obviously, you have Pop and you have Timmy, and then you have these guys. What actually made them great was continuity. You know what I mean? Continuity can be the sixth man on the court when you can always trust in each other. The Heat have continuity, and then they added Jimmy. So they had the continuity. They had the continuity from front office down to the players on the floor, and then you add Jimmy, who fit right into the culture, so it made sense. We don't have continuity. We don't have culture. Signing Jimmy doesn't make sense. It didn't make sense. Trading for him didn't make sense. Keeping continuity made way more sense. Had we re-signed JJ, that made sense. Bringing in Al didn't make any sense. There's no continuity with Al. Trading Jimmy for Josh, no continuity. Josh just left, again, a culture that's better to come to a worse culture, so of course he doesn't fit. Toby's never had continuity in his entire career. If we're being honest, he's never had continuity in his whole career. Having Doc Rivers coach him again is probably the most continuity he's ever experienced in his fucking life. So who knows? We're going to talk about Doc here too. I'm sorry. So the point being, Jimmy was never going to resign here. I don't give a shit. You can rewrite the history every single way you want to rewrite it. That's fine. The point remains he was never going to resign here. I don't even think it was ever really an option in his mind. Saying Jimmy was going to resign here is like saying LeBron was ever going to sign here in the first place 3 years ago. That wasn't going to happen either. So, but with that said, and again, I'm not going to rewrite Jimmy's history. I'm going to get the negative out the way. I'm not rewriting Jimmy's history, man. Jimmy, it's funny because yesterday there was a tweet that it was 2 years. No, it had to have been 1 year, right? No, 2 years. Holy shit, yeah, because oh shit. You see how Corona's got us fucked up? Last year at this time, Jimmy was going through training camp with the Heat. 2 years ago, 2 years ago from yesterday's date was the anniversary of him essentially taking a flamethrower into the Timberwolves facility, burning it down, and then doing an interview right after, setting up an interview right after, and saying it wasn't his fault. So, but, I guess we'll just reimagine everything. People can grow. So, let me be clear. Saying that Jimmy from 2 years ago is Jimmy today is not true. People can grow. Situations change. And that's why Jimmy now, if you want to say Jimmy now is a great leader, sure. But if you're going to sit here and be like, Jimmy was always a great leader, no, he wasn't, because great leaders can operate in any environment. They can take control of their environment and have people follow them along and all of that good shit. Well, Jimmy couldn't really do that in any environment he was ever in. Environment one, the Bulls, he wasn't really going to be allowed to because he was dealing with D Rose. Now, there's probably ways around it, but who knows? I wasn't in there. What do I know? Maybe he doesn't have the opportunity to do it on the Bulls. I can accept that. The Timberwolves, come on. Any great basketball player, in my opinion, would have looked at that Timberwolves role and seen an opportunity to buck these guys, get them under your wing, and take off, just like he did with the Heat just now. It didn't work out. Now, what do I know? Cat seems to be a very nice – Cat and Wiggins, all I've ever heard is like these guys are like impressionable, super nice guys. They don't have a whole lot of fire to them. Seems perfect for someone with a lot of leadership to come in and take control of that, like a Chris Paul or like the Jimmy that we have now reimagined on the Heat. You would figure would have taken that team over and made them great, but couldn't. Point being, Jimmy has evolved for sure, and seeming whether he's become a better leader, he found the perfect situation, or it's kind of meets in the middle here. He's in the perfect situation. It's worked out, and my man, and now that's done. Negative out the way. Let's blow him for a little bit. Jimmy played incredible. I mean, holy shit, he played incredible. You needed someone to put the team on their back, and Jimmy was all there for it. You know what I mean? And it was every game. I know people were kind of down on game 4 because, obviously, so they get routed game 1 and game 2. Game 3, Jimmy has that transcendent fucking performance. Game 4, they lose. Yeah, they go down 3-1, right? They don't go 3-0. Game 4, they make the switch to put AD on Jimmy, and it looks like it works. People are now like, oh, it kind of worked. Although Jimmy still had a very good game. I think he finished 20. Let me see. I think I have the stats here for that game. I only have the averages. So let's see here. Yeah, game 3, Heat win. Yeah, 2-1. Then this win. Let me see if I can look at these stats real quick. I'm so sorry. Jimmy finishes with 22, 10, and 9, 6 to 7, 8 for 17 from the field. So he still has a good game. And then game 5, game 5 is the famous image of Jimmy, being fucking exhausted, which is fair. He played 47 minutes, carries the team on his back, outduels LeBron James down the stretch in a game where I think a lot of people would have folded there, I think. And that's credit to Jimmy. I got to give that dude credit for that. I think a lot of people probably would have folded in the face of that game 5. You know what I mean? It's just a coronation ceremony, and you're facing LeBron. Now, because of that, this is why somebody asked me earlier if I thought that this was LeBron's best finals performance. And I said no, I don't think it was, because the truth is, I don't think it was ever really in doubt. You know what I mean? That game 5 was supposed to be a coronation. So when the Heat showed up, they showed up to spoil that coronation. And I think LeBron kind of pouted a lot during the series. I think he wanted to, there was a lot of pressure. There's a lot of pressure on doing this. He wants to get it done. He has a lot of goals, a lot of reasons why, and he's trying to force it to end. He's willing it to end, essentially. I mean, he had a great series. Let's understand, an incredible series, but just wasn't in the cards to end it in Game 5. You know what I mean? And then Game 6 is never in doubt. They put AD at center, which guess what, AD, you're a fucking center. Just be the center from now on, but whatever. Switch AD to center. The game is not even close. Not a whole lot. I didn't even watch the whole game yesterday. It was just not a whole lot to glean from it, to be honest. As much as this is a 4-2, as much as it ends 4-2, in my opinion, it was never truly in doubt. You know what I mean? This was a gentleman 4-2, as much as it could be. Because, again, it's 4-2. It's a gentleman's 4-2. But game five, the wins, the Heat wins. Game 3 and Game 5 required heroic efforts, heroic levels of effort from Jimmy Butler to win the game. Because of that, though, one thing that I don't see a whole lot of people talking about, which I want to reframe, as heroic as the image of Jimmy being exhausted is on the sideline after that game, and how the image of him walking off the press conference like limping, like he can't even fucking move, it's incredible, right? It's wow, this guy just laid it all on the court. LeBron has been doing this now for 15 years. Essentially, maybe not 15, let's say 13 years. Let's really say 11 years. Let's say 10, 11 years. Let's just say the last 10 years, all the finals appearances, essentially. LeBron has been doing this now for 10 years, and you have never seen him look that exhausted, and you have never seen him walk from a press conference that way. With the most famous one being the J.R. Smith, and LeBron walking off the press conference in the most sassiest fashion I've ever seen in my life. But looked brand new. He looked fine. That is a testament to the greatness of LeBron. You know what I mean? So when somebody asked me that, he asked me, even at 35 years old, you don't think this is his best? And I said, no, because I don't think we should even, and maybe this is taking it for granted a little bit, I don't even think we can include age when we're talking about LeBron. I actually think it's a disservice to talk about it as if age is any longer a factor for him. Age doesn't seem like it's going to be, maybe when he's 38, age will be a factor. I don't know. I mean, this season and this series and these playoffs, the game of basketball looks so easy. And in the finals, this looked like prime LeBron still in the finals, playing great defense, being super duper active, and scoring efficient. This is his best 3-point shooting, his best 3-point shooting of his entire career. I think he averaged 42% from 3. I mean, that's fucking insane. He went 6 for 8 the other night from 3. I mean, that's crazy. It's ludicrous. You know what I mean? The shit that LeBron is doing at this point is just ridiculous. Someone mentioned, did he have the greatest career? I think that's somebody was changing the conversation from the greatest player versus the greatest career. So MJ is still the greatest player of all time, and I can agree with that. And LeBron has had the greatest career of all time. And I think it's a great argument. I think it's a great argument. I think that argument solely depends on how you weigh sticking out turmoil and being on one team for the remainder of your career. Because not to I don't want to shit on LeBron here really at all, because I really want to give him his due. But you can't talk about LeBron without mention one. If you're talking about careers, the Maverick series will always be a huge stink bomb. That's the mushroom cloud in the distance. You know what I mean? When you talk about, like when you talk about the quote unquote greatness of the USA, well, there's like a bunch of stick bombs all over the place that you always have to mention. You can't say this is the greatest country today without mentioning a million of fucked up things along the way. And I think LeBron is similar. You have to when you're picking apart and you're trying to find the best player of all time. It's no people are not unimpeachable when you're talking about one, right? You're talking about number one. Saying that he's one of the greatest players of all times, that's an unimpeachable statement. There's nothing you can say to disgrace that. Talking about he's the greatest player of all time, now we have to impeach careers and we have to look at all the data. But point being, anyway, that's not the point. I mean, he scored 8 points in a finals game against the Mavericks. That's kind of crazy. You know what I mean? There's just look at Jimmy. Jimmy just showed he would never go out that way, right? That's just crazy. You know, that's just like a ludicrous thing that happened to him. And you have to call it. It's not like that was a different person or a different time. This is still this man's career. So that's one thing, right? Then depending on how you view somebody willing to stick it out, staying for the process, fighting all of those things, because that's what MJ did. You can't go into LeBron's career, right, and be like, look, LeBron made it to the finals faster than MJ did. Yeah, that's true, but MJ made his teammates a certain way, and if you couldn't handle it, you got the fuck out, and they got guys who could handle it. Similar to Jimmy and what the Heat are doing. So if you're praising Jimmy and what the Heat are doing, well, LeBron, but MJ had done this already. There was no culture when MJ got to the Bulls, right? Remember, you watched The Last Dance. The Bulls were a fucking mess. It's not like MJ was indoctrinated into a great culture. He didn't come into the Celtics or the Lakers that already have culture and great players and all this. No, he came into a shitty situation, as shitty or worse than the Cavs situation, and created the culture himself. He went through multiple coaches, just like LeBron did, and eventually, and because of a million reasons. Now, again, you've heard me on this podcast defend LeBron's decision to leave the Cavs and go to the Heat, because the difference was that MJ had a somewhat competent front office that could make it work. The firing of Doug Collins to go against MJ's wishes to fire Doug and bring in Phil works out for the best. Phil and Tex Winter works out for the best. You know what I mean? LeBron never really gets the opportunity to do that. The front offices there failed him. You know what I mean? They did. They failed him. I'm sorry. Getting over the hill Shaq was never going to witness protection. That's what he claimed his nickname was going to be. That disappeared immediately. It just, it didn't work out. It just wasn't going to work out. You know what I mean? The Mo Williams trade, that was nice, I guess. When they traded for this dude, damn, I have his face in my head, from the Wizards. Oh shit, what is his stupid name? Antoine Jameson. When they traded for Antoine Jameson, at that point he was averaging like 22 a game on the Wizards. He was playing incredible. And then he comes to the Heat and it doesn't. I mean, he comes to the Cavs, it doesn't work out. And that's also a function, because he doesn't fit with LeBron. And that was, again, mistakes being made by the front office. When he went to the Heat, to me, the Heat is a more indefensible situation. We're going to rewrite the history when it's all said and done. But look, he returned to the Cavs like a conquering hero and brought home a championship. He had to learn how to win, and then he comes to the Cavs. And that is ignoring the fact that the Cavs had 3 first-round picks over those first 4 years. And one of those picks was, 3 number 1 picks over the first 4 years. One of those picks was Kyrie. One of those picks was Andrew Wiggins. One of those picks was, what's his stupid face? What's his name? It's not important. The one from Canada who sucked. And one of those picks they used to trade for Kevin Love. So they trade for Kevin Love. They trade Wiggins and the picks and some other crap, I think, for Kevin Love. And he has Kyrie. He returned to a team that he knew he could manipulate into moving some of these assets and stack the deck for himself. Let's not forget that Timberwolves Kevin Love at that point was putting up like 30-20s on like nightly basis. He was doing insane shit. I mean, this was the number 1 pick in fantasy basketball at the time. You know what I mean? Like the number 1 or number 2 pick, whatever. It didn't matter. 30-20. You're going to get 30-20s all day. He was doing having ridiculous numbers. Was the best rebounder in the league. Crazy. He had an entire offense built around him. He couldn't win on his own. But, whatever. This was a conversation between who's better, Blake or Kevin Love. Who's the best power forward here? And Kyrie is the number 1 pick. Is supposed to be a transcendent guy, even though his college career is, a question mark, essentially. He trades for them. He trades for Kevin Love, has Kyrie, and he stacks the deck in his favor. You know what I mean? He stacks the deck in his favor. He did it on the Heat. You know, he stacked the deck in his favor on the Heat. He took his biggest rival in Dwayne Wade and grabbed another guy who was a all NBA player, was in the Olympics, was an all-star in Chris Bosh, who was winning like 40 game, we're having 40 game seasons on a team that was crap. He was up there with like Charlie Villanueva and a mixture of trash. I think he might have played a year with DeMar DeRozan, a year or two. I think DeRozan gets drafted in 08. I might be wrong. 08 or 09, I think he plays a year or two with DeRozan. I think that would have been nice later on, you know, but it was going to take time. You know, man, that would have been nice, honestly. They would have gotten Kyle Lowry. They would have been Lowry, DeRozan, and Bosh. But whatever, it doesn't work out. They trade Bosh. So now you got Bosh, D-Wade, and LeBron. He stacks the deck in his favor again. Goes to the Cavs, stacks the deck in his favor. Goes to the Lakers. He does the exact same thing. So the reason why this is not his best finals performance is because this is actually his best teammate he's ever had. Anthony Davis just averaged, let's see, 25, 11, 25, 10.7. So 25, 11, 3 assists, 1 steal, 2 blocks. I mean, it was a defensive fucking presence. A couple games won on, and look at the stats here. He was a better free throw shooter than LeBron was. Finished with a 57% field goal percentage, 42% from 3, 94% from the free throw line. I mean, that's fucking insane. You know what I mean? And really, the 25 points comes down because of injury, because over the first 2 or 3 games, he was averaging 30. And then, you know, injuries, whatever, kind of took some of that fluidity from him. But, you know, he took the game 4 responsibility after they lose, after Jimmy goes ballistic, and essentially mutes Jimmy a bit, forces other guys to step up who can't step up, and wins the game. LeBron stacked the deck in his favor again. You know what I mean? He removes one of the 5 best players in the NBA in Anthony Davis, one of the 3 best players in the West, arguably, and stacks the deck in his favor to win. You know, so with that said, though, the rest of that roster is trash. Let's just keep it real. It worked because all those guys respect LeBron. There's a lot of veterans there that respect LeBron and know how to win. Let's be clear. Dwight Howard doesn't necessarily know how to win, but Dwight Howard did take a team to the finals. If you know, I know it's fun to shit on Dwight Howard, and, you know, his career is whatever. At one point, he was the most destructive center in the NBA, 2-time All-Defensive Player of the Year, and took a team to the finals. A trash team. There's not one guy on that Magic team who's going to the Hall of Fame. And I mention that because when we talk about when the Magic beat the Cavs that year, people seem to have this understanding as if the Magic was like a better team than the Cavs. And maybe you could argue positionally they were. Maybe they didn't have their starting point guard when they did it. This dude got injured. You know, fucked his shoulder up halfway through the season. I think it happened in March. What's his name? Went to St. Joe's, Philly product. Sure. Oh my God, I can't remember his name right now. It's not important. A starting point guard gets hurt. They have Skip to my Lou starting. Ray for Austin is starting point guard for that team. You know what I mean? And then you got fucking HGH. What's his face? Hito Turkoglu. You know, rocking out. Creating offense, kind of almost outduels LeBron in certain points of the game. And then you got Dwight and you got Rashard Lewis, and it's, you know, I don't even, you know, I don't know. I guess you could argue Stan Van Gundy probably did outcoach Mike Brown. I'd have to watch it. I know LeBron's numbers are incredible for the series. I know that. Again, I know that, but that doesn't always tell the story. Anyway, point being, you know, Dwight has had great career moments. Obviously, he's been watched for a while, but found a really good niche here. Again, following LeBron's lead. You know what I mean? Following LeBron's lead. Credit to LeBron. Following his lead, coming in, spot duty, causing havoc, getting under Joker, getting into Joker, getting under his skin, trying to get under Bam's skin. I mean, he fucked Bam's shoulder up. No, he didn't fuck Bam's shoulder. Bam fucked his shoulder up because he thought Dwight was sweet and tried to muscle up. I'm going to talk about Bam in a second. Point being, so that roster is whatever. A lot of those guys play really well for LeBron. I got to give him credit. Kyle Kuzma is a really good player. I like Kyle Kuzma a lot. In terms of talent, he is the 3rd best basketball player on that team. In terms of actual playing, I guess you could argue the 3rd best player. I don't know who the 3rd best player was. Every game was a different player, which I think is actually that's what the NBA usually is. It's usually 2 guys and then a bunch of role players. Who's going to be the 3rd guy? That's going to be the guy that decides each game, right? The 3rd guy is going to help win the series. And, you know, there was games where Rondo was it. There was games where Dwight was helping. Markeith had a good game, and then he had shit the bed and launches a pass out of bounds, which it's it's a fucking it's a copy of the J.R. Smith thing, where J.R. gets blamed for fucking up and losing track of what the score was and the time on the clock, but George Hill missed the free throw in the first place that would have won the game. Well, here, Danny Green, sure, he shorts arm a three. It's a bad pass. Let's be clear. It's the right pass, right? Because, again, there's nuance here. It's the right pass. LeBron made the right pass. If you don't think LeBron made the right pass, I question if you've even played basketball. You know what I mean? It's the right pass. And then saying that Kobe and MJ wouldn't have made that pass. One, MJ has made that pass 100 times in his fucking career. I mean, he's made it 1,000,000 times. The whole point of The Last Dance is MJ learning to trust his teammates, and that's what allows them to win a bunch of games after that. Kobe famously passes that ball to Metta World Peace in the finals. That is the biggest shot of that finals against the Celtics. And but everyone was screaming, no, don't shoot that. And then he shot it. It was heartbreaking. I was rooting for the Celtics that series. Anyways, not the point. And also Kobe would have probably shot 1,000,000 bad shots. He did it against the Magic and got bailed out by Paul Gasol, I think, if I remember this correctly. Or was that the game they lost? I think they went 4-1. That might have been the game they lost. I mean, he shot 3 on 3 guys. It was a terrible shot. It just didn't make sense. Just doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? So whatever. LeBron made the right pass. It's stupid. The pass, though, is a difficult pass to make because his body is flying in one direction at full speed, and he has to turn his hips and launch a pass behind him. So it's off target, of course, and at Danny's feet. Danny has to catch the ball, reset himself, and then shoot. Is not the easiest shot to make. You know what I mean? What are Danny's numbers for the series, actually? I want to see that. Yeah, Danny shot 29% from 3. Danny, the thing is, too, if you were paying attention to last year, I mean, last year Danny looked washed, unfortunately. But to call Danny into question in the first place, again, I question people's basketball knowledge and acumen. Have you been paying attention? Danny's been hitting big threes in the finals since he was on the Spurs. He almost won Finals MVP. Through the first 2 games of was that the 14 finals when they beat the Heat they beat the Heat in 5 games. Through the first 2 games, he was looking like he was going to be Finals MVP, and then Kawhi in the last 3 games averages 30 a game, gives LeBron some problems defensively, and he wins Finals MVP. Danny is a baller. He's just a little bit washed. That's fine. So yeah, point being, yeah, I mean, KCP, I guess KCP was the 3rd best player of the series. He averaged 13 a game, 30% from 3. Rondo averaged 33% from 3. I mean, that's insane. Good for Rondo. He really remade himself. And so, to question greatest careers, the reason why I mentioned all of this quick history about LeBron is because when you're talking about the best careers, you're talking about Tim Duncan, who was in the league for 20 years, 5-time champion. As long as you had Tim Duncan, you were pretty much guaranteed 50 to 60 wins, maybe higher, maybe 55 to 65 wins. You're guaranteed the playoffs, and you're guaranteed 1 out of 3 years being in the Western Conference Finals. You're guaranteed 1 out of 4 years going to the finals. And then in those finals, 5 out of 6 times, he's winning the championship. You know what I mean? So when you talk about great careers, Timmy had one of the greatest careers, and he went through some shitty rosters. So Tim Duncan has one of the greatest careers. Kareem, 20-plus years in the NBA, wins a Finals MVP in 1987, I believe it is. That's after I think that's year 18 in the league. Similar to LeBron, which is why I mentioned it. He wins Finals MVP that year. Most points scored for a career, iconic shot. The fucking skyhook, which is unstoppable, one of the greatest offensive plays that you can run in NBA history. Wins with Oscar. Without Kareem, Oscar never gets a championship. Oscar had been averaging triple-doubles his entire career but could not get a championship. They get Kareem, transcendent. Also, his college career. I mean, was he 2 years in UCLA? They win they go undefeated for 2 years. Win 2 championships, if I'm not mistaken, gets drafted. I mean, all the social justice stuff is there, too. He's Lou Alcindor, changes his name to Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in protest along with Muhammad Ali. So great. When you're talking about great careers, right? you got to mention like Kareem, and you're going to have to mention Tim Duncan, and you're going to mention LeBron. So all of that is going to come down to, well, what do you value most? Kareem has 6 MVPs. That's more MVPs than LeBron. That's 3 more MVPs than LeBron. Timmy has 2 MVPs. So when you're talking about careers, we're going to, it's not as easy as you think. Recency bias on earth sucks. Recency bias is one of the worst things that's ever happened to them, because every time we rewrite history, it's based on recency bias, and we're unable to acquire the context of the past to contextualize the present. We're just writing everything from a recent bias thing, and then 20 years removed, we go back 20 years and rewrite that. And it's just like, well, what happened to the writing at the time? So that's to get a little too deep. But the point being, is it the greatest career? I don't know. LeBron is firmly second in my book. Firmly second. Again, I had him 1A, 1B because people get so goddamn offended when you say he's the second best player of all time, because they feel like it doesn't do him justice, and that's fine. I think he's behind MJ, and I don't know if there's going to be a time that he will be ahead of MJ. But with that said, I won't argue with anybody. If you think LeBron is the greatest basketball player of all time, you can have that. You know what I mean? I'm not going to argue and say you're wrong or demean you. You can have it. The numbers speak for themselves. The numbers, as long as you have him, you're guaranteed the playoffs too, pretty much. You know what I mean? The only player to go to the playoffs more in his career than LeBron is like Tim Duncan. You know what I mean? Like probably Kareem. Guys who, as soon as they come into the league over this 15, 20-year span of time, are in the playoffs every single year, pretty much guaranteed, other than year one and other than last year with LeBron. So, I'm sorry. So, I don't know. Greatest career, arguable. Greatest basketball player of all time, arguable. He's, I think, number 2. What a series for him. That dude just doesn't age. You're talking about a freak of nature here. You're talking about something, a freak of nature in terms of health, in terms of athletic ability, and in terms of will, because all we know about is we all hear the stories about how much work he puts in the offseason, and that deserves an equal amount of credit. You know what I mean? To how he's kept his body so fresh. I mean, he's on the cutting edge of it. You should be reviewing what he does for people. You know what I mean? Like, scientists should be like, what do you do, LeBron, on a daily basis and weekly and monthly and yearly to keep your body this way? And how can we cure cancer with this? Because it's fucking crazy. He deserves all the admiration for that. I don't know. Again, I don't know who takes him for granted. People constantly tweeting over taking LeBron no one's taking LeBron for granted. At least I'm not. I don't know if anybody else is. And the point being, I mean, when you watch him, he doesn't ever look tired. And I think sometimes that can lead people to believe that LeBron didn't leave it all out there. And that's not true. LeBron just doesn't show weakness, and that might be, it could easily be that he's tired and he refuses to let you eat. Because you know what? The worst thing that happened about Jimmy looking tired was when I watched the game yesterday in the first quarter, the first thing I said was Jimmy looks tired. And the Heat look tired. You know what I mean? They're marching to the beat of Jimmy's drum, and that drum is exhausted. You know what I mean? And they all look tired as shit. I want to backtrack because I said AD was LeBron's best teammate. The reason why I think AD is LeBron's best teammate, all time as of right now, Dwayne Wade is still LeBron's best teammate in terms of who's a greater player, AD or Dwayne Wade. Was Dwayne Wade? That's unimpeachable right now. By the end of AD's career, it might be a different conversation, but right now it's Dwayne Wade. It's not even close. But what AD does, because AD is not a leader, and we've talked about this on this podcast, he's not quite the leader that D. Wade was. He's not an alpha like D. Wade was, and that caused issues when D. Wade and LeBron first started playing together. Well, it's perfect because AD marches to LeBron's drum. So as long as LeBron is showing this intensity on defense, AD is basically saying, you're not going to out-intense my defense. You're not going to out-intensity me on defense, right? Oh, you're going hard on offense. You're not going to go hard on me on offense. He's just matching LeBron's effort at every turn. You know what I mean? In the past, when AD got injured 2 games ago, AD would have been out for a month. I promise you. I know because every time I talked about AD, I always talk about how he's either injury prone or he's just maybe a little bit soft. Maybe he's not great with pain. And I think what we just saw is what happens to a lot of guys, I understand, is when he was on the Pelicans, probably thinking that there's no hope here. So I get injured. Why am I going to play in pain? We're not chasing anything. You know, we're chasing the AFC to get blown out by the fucking Warriors for what? You know what I mean? And while I don't agree with that mindset, I think that watching him in the finals get injured or having been injured apparently for a while, he just re-aggravated his foot, tells you that he's marching to the beat of LeBron's drum. There is no quit in LeBron. Therefore, there will be no quit in AD. And that's why I think that's LeBron's best teammate. The best defensive teammate only because D-Wade at his prime caused havoc on the perimeter as a defender. But if you're a post-defensive player, if you're a player around the rim and someone who can move like AD, you're just able to affect more. I mean, he's just wider, longer, can do more on defense, can affect more portions of the court on defense. So, yeah, you know, I don't think this was ever quite in question. Jimmy played himself, arguably. I'm not going to just all of a sudden say Jimmy's a top 5 player just because he played great in the finals. Because if you're telling me that you have to reach the finals to get Jimmy to play great, well, most teams don't reach the fucking finals. The percentage of people who reach the finals and the percentage of people who go back to the finals year after year is low. And the only reason why that percentage has gone higher is because of LeBron James, and any player who's ever played with LeBron James, you ended up having a percentage of people constantly going back to the finals because they were on LeBron's team. That doesn't always happen. There's no guarantee that the Heat will be back in the finals. Again, I talked about this in February. The Heat were falling apart. They were coming apart at the seams. Somehow this period off was the best thing that happened to them. You know, and I had seen people talk about how rookies, that this was almost like their second year. You know what I mean? So they've seen the NBA. They know what it takes. Now they get to spend 3 months. And if they're motivated, they're going to work on their game, own their craft, and really come back into the bubble reinvigorated. That's what looked like Tyler Hero did, in my opinion. I don't think Dragic would have changed the series that much. You know, I understand. I just don't think. I'm sorry. I just don't think it. I just don't think it. You know, I just don't think it. You know what I mean? Last night, Dragic came back, and I don't even think it mattered. Nothing about last night. I want to be clear about something. The adjustment of moving AD to 5, Dragic coming back, and none of that mattered. The game was written, in my opinion. You know what I mean? Game 6 was going to end with the Lakers winning. I don't think there's anything that would have changed that. AD could have been injured. I don't think it would have changed. I think LeBron was just, this was going to be the game they won. LeBron is great enough to dictate that, and that's, you know, how it ends. That's just how the story goes. My one critique about the Heat, Bam, as great as Bam is, and I don't, you know, this is, I don't want to discredit Bam. Like, this is like adding insult to injury, essentially. Where did Bam finish for the series? Bam finished 15, 6, and 3. Yeah, I mean, just obviously he was injured, but my thing with Bam right now is Bam's going to have to get a lot stronger. You know what I mean? In my opinion, Bam's going to have to get a whole lot stronger if he intends on really taking a step forward, and I think he will. I do think he will. I mean, he's improving every year. That's what you need. He's going to be with Jimmy. Jimmy is a workout fucking freak. You know what I mean? Jimmy is a workout freak by all measures. That dude, just all he does is eat, sleep, work out. Eat, sleep, working out. Bam last night was walking by the apparently every night in the bubble he would take walks or whatever, and was walking by the celebration, and Rachel Nichols asked him, you know, how do you make him feel? And he said it made him feel motivated. You know what I mean? And that's important. You know, that's important. In the face of heartbreak and loss and disaster, you feel motivated and driven. So we'll see. He needs to get stronger. He got pushed around. He has trouble finishing at the rim against anybody. You know what I mean? I mean, he was struggling against anybody. He tried to finish one play. I think it was against Rondo, and just couldn't. I mean, it's like 2K right now. You know, where it's like you have this big guy against a small guy, and he just can't score for whatever reason. That's Bam right now. You know what I mean? AD is strong as shit. He's kind of underrated how strong he is, because when he's in the post, he's like a fucking bull in a china shop. I mean, we know Joel is strong as shit, but he's also just big and wide. It's easy to get that perception. Whereas AD isn't as big, so he may not create as much space for his shoulders, but he's very clearly strong as shit. Bam needs to get stronger. If he wants to contend, if he wants to come back, if he wants to be back, he's going to have to get a whole lot stronger to really make a difference. He just wasn't a force per se. He just wasn't a force. You know what I mean? Obviously, again, he was injured. So I don't want to, whatever, credit to him for coming back. I mean, it is the finals. The credit for him to coming back, but he just isn't strong enough, in my opinion. It's easy to skate by when you can out-athletic Brook Lopez, when you can beat the shit out of Daniel Tice, who's an okay defender, but, it just isn't enough. When you can out-athletic Miles Turner, who's just slow-footed. Like, you can beat those guys and make them look embarrassing, but all of a sudden you go against Dwight, you go against AD, and other guys. I mean, some of the other guys in the Lakers, I mean, you're just getting pushed around too much, too easy. So he's going to have to get a lot stronger. I would be very, very weary of saying or expecting this Heat team to be back next year, to expect it to just be that easy. I don't think they're the class of the East. I don't. Unfortunately, I don't. It won't be the fucking Sixers, but I don't think it's going to be the Heat. But that's next year. Right now, what a performance by Jimmy. All of those guys. A lot of times guys see the finals and they take a step up after it. So let's see if that's going to happen for guys like Duncan, guys like Tyler Robinson. Duncan's going to have to also get stronger. You know what I mean? He's going to have to work on his strength so that he's not a bad defender. He's in the right position and he tries on defense, kind of like JJ. He just is getting pushed around. He's just too weak. You know what I mean? He needs to get stronger. Guys like Tyler Hero, all of these guys can have room for improving. Who knows what's going to happen with Kendrick Nunn? He doesn't have any shortness of I mean, he shot really well. 47% field goal percentage, 39% from three. He didn't play much, but in the spurts he did play well. So we'll see. They relied a lot on Iggy. I mentioned that. They relied a lot on Iggy. They're not, that's problematic. It's probably time for Iggy to retire, I would think, unless, maybe a full off season with the same team will help Iggy. I mean, let's keep in mind that Iggy did essentially not play since the year before, just sat out the entire season, which was dumb. I don't respect that. I'll be honest with you. I don't respect what Iggy did. I mean, one, he could have helped that team. He could have helped that team. You know what I mean? Credit to Vince, who was going from shitty team to shitty team and was fine with it. I'm not saying that's great either, but he could have helped that team. Iggy could have helped that team. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I think that there's something there. You know what I mean? Like, you're competing for championships. I get it. You had a couple championships. So you want to force yourself out of this team? I don't know. Whatever. I don't stand with it. Let's talk about the Sixers real quick. So obviously, I wanted to talk about this last week about the Doc Rivers hiring, and I just didn't get the chance to. So I'll talk about it here. Listen, I don't. It's not that I hate Doc Rivers. I don't hate Doc. You know what I mean? I want to be clear. I don't hate Doc. There's a couple things that bother me. Let's start with Doc first, and then I'm going to talk about the front office after. Doc is a great leader of men, without a question. Right? He's a very good leader. This past year with this Clippers team is kind of hard to use as a great example because if you're going to go off of recent history, it doesn't look like he was that great of a leader, but fine. We'll discard that because I don't think that's completely his fault. I also don't completely think it's fair to have remodeled an entire roster and then give Doc 1 year to figure it out. But everything we've heard is essentially kind of looks like Ballmer wanted to probably just move on from Doc regardless, probably for a couple years, it seems, because Doc was a holdover. And, a lot of these guys don't want to deal with that. So Doc is a holdover from a previous regime, and then, whatever. He didn't want to deal with that, got rid of Doc. I don't think that's completely fair to have fired Doc after 1 year. But the seams in that locker room were coming apart with or without Doc. I mean, the stuff about guys rolling their eyes at Paul George and all that shit, that's kind of not – that's a little bit scary. These guys carried themselves with, like, this entitled manner that didn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, without winning any of the things that LeBron has won, carried themselves like they were all LeBron. You know what I mean? And it was confusing. So how much of that do we want to put on Doc's feet? I don't know. You decide yourself. If you want to have rose-colored glasses about Doc, help yourself. I don't mind you not acknowledging last year as his fault per se, especially because it was such a weird year and all that. I do think that's a little weird. But to me, Doc's best work was managing, even though, again, he was about to get fired from that Celtics team until they make the trades for KG and Ray. If it doesn't work out that year, he probably gets fired. The years before, they were rumbling about them firing him. He got fired from the Magic years earlier, which the Magic wasn't completely his fault either. Managing to get Ray, Paul Pierce, and KG to all work together, to respect Rondo on the court, he deserves credit for that, for sure. He deserves credit for that. Being able to get Chris Paul to not choke out Blake Griffin or DeAndre Jordan on a daily basis, he deserves credit for that, because those guys apparently hated each other. And it was becoming more and more evident as the years were going on. But Doc had been doing such a great job keeping it in-house and managing those guys, managing the Clippers situation as a whole. Once this dude, fuck him, whatever, got caught being a racist scumbag, the owner, Donald Sterling got caught being a racist scumbag. He managed that incredibly well. He deserves credit for that. My problem with Doc is the X's and O's stuff. I mean, we've essentially routinely watched him get out-coached. We just watched him get out-coached by the Nuggets. Let's not even talk about the in-house shit, right? Let's talk about the schematical issues that he had against the Nuggets. You know what I mean? Playing Lou Will and playing Montrezl Harrell essentially did them in. It just did them in. You go up. Also, there's this sexy stat. I don't like saying sexy stats, but it's kind of evident. It's relevant for this conversation. He's lost the most 3-1 leads. The most 3-1, being up 3-1 or 2-0 leads, he's lost them the most in NBA history. Maybe they win the series, but allowing it to go to 7 games, they're never able to close. They're never able to close the deal. That's what he just did against his Nuggets team. You know what I mean? Like, you go up 3-1, they just start out-adjusting you. They realize that Montrez and Lou Will can't play on the court together, and you never make an adjustment for that. Lou Will and Montrez just routinely getting played off the court. Lou Will also just being a zero offensively. At this point, his playoff numbers are suspect at best, but in this series especially, he wasn't good. He just wasn't good. He could not be playing. He couldn't play. You know what I mean? You never make any adjustments to get him off the court. Montrez is routinely getting played off the court. You're not making any adjustments for that. You're allowing the Nuggets to get whatever switch they want. You never make any adjustments for switches. Essentially, Jamal Murray is just running out and saying, "Okay, I don't want Paul George on me. I don't want Kawhi on me. I'll take Reggie, or I'll take." And this, mind you, this happened in the series before against the Mavericks. Continuously switching, and that's when Luka hits that three-pointer. Well, Kawhi started on Luka, then they get the switch. He gets Reggie, and then he hits that three-pointer on Reggie. So you're going down with your values and your ship. Meanwhile, you're just getting out-coached on the court because you want to go down with these. You want to be hard-headed. He's done this a lot through his career. You know, as successful as he is, his success has come on the back of great rosters, and that success has been kind of low-key disappointing. You know what I mean? The Clippers are kind of disappointing. It's a disappointing story. They won a lot, sure. They won a lot of games and a lot of playoff series, but they lost heartbreaking ways. You know what I mean? They lost in heartbreaking ways, and all people did was take it out on Chris Paul. And I understand. I get you want to take it out on Chris Paul. I get it. That's fine. Cool. They never mention Doc when they talk about it. You know what I mean? Guys collapsing up the Rocket series when they bench James Harden and they come back from down 20 and beat the Clippers. What the fuck is that? You know what I mean? So, and his teams are also famous for bitching at refs all the time, just complaining to refs constantly. This Clippers team did it. All the Clippers teams in years past, Blake just constantly berating refs instead of getting back on defense. Same thing with Chris Paul. So, you know, those are the things that bother me about Doc. Is that going to fit here? Like, is that the culture? Having Joe and Ben bitch at refs, is that going to be the culture? What exactly is going to be the culture here? That's one. Two, this is really the issue with this hire to me. This is the biggest issue with the hire. There were rumors and stories that were coming out that, A, Elton wanted to hire Tyronn Lue. The owners wanted to hire Mike D'Antoni. when Doc gets fired, they come to a mutual agreement and hire Doc. What? So the GM wants to hire Coach A. The owners want to hire Coach B. And let's talk about why they want to hire Coach B. They want to hire Coach B for one fucking reason. Mike D'Antoni is routinely having the highest scoring offenses. The highest scoring offenses sell tickets and put seats in the stands, and that is why they wanted Mike D'Antoni. Mike D'Antoni has won nothing in his career, been to the playoffs a bunch, has won nothing. Now, some of that is a little bit unfair, but the point is he's never won shit in his career. I mean, let's just keep it clear. He's never won anything in his career. So ownership wants D'Antoni. The GM, your general manager, there was a rumor or a story 2 weeks previous that said ownership was going to remove some of their power and allow Elton to make decisions on his own as the GM. And then 2 weeks later, he is no longer making decisions on his own as the GM. So then we settle for Doc as a good midpoint. Somehow that's a good midpoint. I don't know how you come to that. I guess ownership is saying, well, Doc is going to put butts in seats because it's Doc Rivers, no name, a winner. Everyone knows Doc. They're going to come now. And Elton is thinking schematically, Doc fits well here. Good leader, can help the young guys get Ben and Joe under, unified and boop, go out against the world or something. I don't know. That is a problem. We hired Doc in a front office that is confusing, is questionable, in upheaval. This is right now the starting point of his career in the Sixers. The starting line is 2 years from a finish line that I know too well, which is that 2 years from now, when it's all gone bad and we fire Doc, they're going to be talking about stories from 2 years previous about how there was a million issues in the front office. No one knew who was in charge. Doc is here, doesn't know what he's supposed to do. Does he have input? Does he not have input? What are the roles of people? Now Elton is getting guys underneath him, but he can't even fucking hire the head coach. So we hired Doc. That is not the fix. That's not the fix. That is not the fix. We know nothing about Doc's coaching staff right now. We just lost an assistant coach, which whatever. Fuck our assistant coaches. I don't care about any of them. Even what's his face. Again, I talked about his defensive schemes all year. All year his defensive schemes were problematic. We're just allowing guys to shoot wide open shots off of screens. We're not even fighting under screens to try to contest. We're trying to fight over screens, except no one is actually helping over the screen. So our defensive schemes were terrible. So I don't know who our assistant coaches are. I mean, maybe we can go and see what this Kenny Atkinson. I love Kenny Atkinson, big Kenny Atkinson fan. Maybe we can see what Kenny Atkinson is doing. I think that'd be great. Doc has the sway to get a lot of guys here. I'll say that. Doc will have the sway to get a lot of almost any assistant coach he wants will come here for Doc. You know what I mean? So that's what it's going to require. Depending on his assistant coaching staff is really going to influence on what I think how Doc is going to do here is going to depend wholly on the coaching staff that he puts together. We'll know if Al Horford is starting next year. We'll know pretty much if this is going to shit because it's clear it's not going to work. We got to cut that shit out. We got to cut it out. Toby has to be the 4. Ben is the 3. Whatever, doesn't matter. Ben is the 3. Joe is the 5. And now we need, I guess, Josh and Shake are the 1 and 2. That's fine. I'm fine with that. Continuity. There are rumors that this story is really gaining. I'm seeing a lot more writers write about this. And usually when you see this, that means they're hearing some sort of rumblings from somewhere that they're not talking about. The idea that we could trade Al Horford straight up for Buddy. If that is the offer, I would have called it in. Who do we need to call? I'll drive Al myself. We can go on a road trip. Planes, trains, and automobiles. John Candy. R.I.P. I will take his ass to Sacramento. I'll be there. 30 hours with Al Horford. We can go listen to bachata the whole way. He's Dominican. We love bachata. Listen to bachata the whole way, my man. Ding, 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 ding. Dance in the car. I don't care. Let's dance. And I'll get you there. You and your sister and your wife. get you all to Sacramento, my friend. I'll do it. I volunteer myself. So yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen. That's my thing about Doc. It's not that I hate Doc or whatever. I've been saying for years and years I thought Doc was one of the most overrated coaches in the NBA. And in my opinion, he is. You know what I mean? In my opinion, if you really look at his career, you could pick it apart pretty easily. You know what I mean? You could really pick his career apart pretty easily. You can also make the argument. See, with the Clippers, you can make the argument that that Clippers team got sandwiched between. You see, but like they could have been the bad boy Pistons. They get sandwiched between two eras. They're getting sandwiched between the Spurs. They're getting sandwiched between the beginning of the Mavericks. The beginning of the. They're getting sandwiched between the Spurs, Mavericks, and they're getting sandwiched between the beginning of the Warriors. And in between that, they're fighting the grit and grind Grizz. You know what I mean? So this is the West Coast we're talking about when we say, could LeBron have gone to the finals 8 straight times if he's running through this murderer's row of fucking teams? The Rockets, the Thunder. Like, think about these teams. Thunder, Rockets, Spurs, Warriors, grit and grind Grizz, and the Clippers. That's 7 deep. I'm sorry, 6. Look at me. I'm an idiot. 6 deep. You know what I mean? That's 6 fucking deep teams. The Jazz constantly causing issues. And now the Nuggets here. That's 6 deep teams that you're constantly having to fight is not as easy as people realize. But so you can make the argument that they maybe have the worst team. You know what I mean? You can make the argument. You can make the argument. I don't know if I would agree with it. Blake put up some great numbers. Blake was a few times got votes as an MVP, finished top 5 voting. Chris Paul, we know. Chris Paul, all-time great point guard, unimpeachable career. So I don't know, man. DeAndre was always super overrated, just super duper overrated. But yeah, I don't know. So that's how I feel about Doc. I just think his career is a little overrated to me. The idea that he's going to bring this winning culture here. When you look at his teams, as people were screaming, like people were the same people that were loving the clip that loved Doc were the same people that hated the Clippers because they were constantly bitching at refs, and that started with Doc. It wasn't just Chris Paul, it wasn't just Blake, it was Doc. You know what I mean? So I don't know, man. We'll see. I don't know what's going to happen here. The front office thing scares me. That right there is going to be what poisons the opportunity that Doc is, whether he can get the opportunity to make this work, it'll be poisoned by the front office possibly. And it may not even be his fault, but it's not a good start in my opinion. There's not a good foundation here for Doc to work. So that's how I feel. Let me know how you guys feel. There'll be more news and developments. We'll talk about basketball as it comes. Maybe one podcast a week. Not a whole lot to talk about, but there'll be free agent scuttlebutt and trade rumors and the beginning of next season rumors and all types of shit. Coaches moving around, coaches getting fired. And yeah, everyone wash your hands. Arrest the cops who killed Breonna Taylor. You already know what it is. I know it's not possible, but I'll be saying that for the rest of my life. Black Lives Matter. Take care. Wear your stupid mask. I would love to. We're not going to make it. I don't even give a shit. The end of the world is coming, guys. Prepare for it. Take care, everybody. Stay safe.
Yeah. Justice for the blind. Just something that'll find in the rhymes that are coming from my mind. Used to come